That sounds like game theory, though.
Yes.
And it's quite interesting. There's a lot of theory in there, but it's just all math when it comes down to it. But still, on the same, besides, being curious and all these, there's also even this analogy that as a lady, don't take anything that is, there's that fear towards math, STEM kind of courses. How do you overcome that besides being curious?
Okay. So instead of except for being curious, I would say you have to be bold and brave. So you have to be that person that knows, I know exactly what I want. No one's going to tell me or deter me from what I want.
Yeah.
I know that I want this. I know all the things that come with it. I know all the hard things that come with it.
Yeah.
And I really just want to go for it. I would say my field is quite not normal in the sense that people would look at it like, okay, but when you're going to get a job, where are you going to be employed? Like, my whole family's asked me all these questions, but I feel like I know where I want to go with it. So I know intentionally how I'm going to use it. Yeah. And I think once you know that and you believe that, nothing else can change what you believe in.
Nice. So just a bit off mathematics, because I know for me, math is personal, because I believe that, as you said earlier, everything is math. It comes down to numbers, including anything and everything, actually, even music, and even the personal symmetry. Like a human being symmetric view is math. And this time, I remember we were coming from a safari around Kenya, and we were discussing this with my buddies. And I asked a very quick, not a so good question, depends how you translate it. It just something came in my mind. I was like, guys, do you know why someone would be attracted to someone and not someone else? And that discussion mentioned this series known as Mirrors. I don't know if you've had a chance to watch it. And it boiled down like there are shapes and symmetric view that I can process, someone else can't. The same way our eyes have symmetrical features that are not like any other person in the world, and that is math.
Yeah.
Our palm has symmetric features that no one else has. Our fingers, everything else, it boils down to that. And when you think about it, it's as complex as math, because you're like, why, even if you're my father, you're my mother, biologically, there are things that I look like you, but not exactly like you.
Yeah.
So the same thing now applies now to math when it comes to real world. It is applicable in everything that we see, but not so many people actually are ready for that complexity.
Exactly.
And also something else I've noted, and you can maybe talk about it, is that most good mathematicians, they don't find mathematics hard. I'm like, are you guys wired differently? What is this X factor that makes you look at math and you just look at the problem and you can see the solution already? But someone else has to go like 50 steps, wrong steps, go back another 50 wrong steps until they get it.
Okay, so it's so funny that you mentioned that, because I think I was in my honors year and I was like speaking to her and she's like, how are you so like flawless? Like you just look at something and you just can start writing.
Yeah.
And then like the way they explained it is maths, like anything, takes time, right? But how they practice maths is quite interesting. So like I was asking, like, how do you just like know? And then like, Jess, when you've taught something for so many years, the integral details can change, but the concept is still the same. So it's possibly like recognizing what you need to do when, but subtly. So it's not about like giving you a list of problems and then saying these are the solutions and this is how you always tackle them. It's more like you can see where this is going, where you saw this problem in this book, and see like how does it look similar and how does it look different. And then once you start practicing doing that all the time, you naturally become flawless. So it's like training your brain to naturally recognize the solutions within the problem without force feeding your mind. So that's like how I understand how they did it or how they do it. I can also see it with my supervisor, like he'll just, sometimes I'm reading something and it like doesn't come to me immediately. And then he was like, okay, let's really read this and understand what it's really saying. And then when he reads and really breaks it down, it's like, how do you know? And he's like, it's because I've read so many papers. Like he said, it takes me like maybe 3 weeks to review one paper that needs to be published.
Yeah.
And you're saying you can't read maybe 2 pages in one day. You read like a bit, try to understand, and then take a break and then read a bit. Then he was like, but then once you get the feeling for reading math, and understand exactly what they're saying, you'll be able to do direct translations like I do. Like I'll just be able to read and then explain it to you. It's like, okay, I'll get there. But yeah, I think that's how they actually subconsciously become flawless. And it was so funny because I only realized like maybe when I was in honors year, because I was tutoring one of the subjects that's really hard, real analysis. So it's like the foundation of topology, but it's pure math and it's like lots of theorems and you speak about continuity and open and closed sets. And it's just very set theoretic type of approach. But there's like no numbers. So it's just letters and out like Greeks and like sigma and delta and all of those things. And then I was like, this like is so hard. But then I noticed like as I started to tutor it became naturally, subconsciously more flawless. Especially calculus. When someone needed help with calculus, I just like would open up a book, read, understand, and then I could automatically just exponentially. Yeah. Math just flows out to me.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting response because you've answered like a true mathematician. You've said it's in the pattern. It's a pattern. As long as you recognize the pattern, you get it. So you definitely a mathematician.
Yeah, and I heard about comparison theory. You compare 2 problems and see which one is easier, which one is hard, and you take the hard one and embrace the hardness in it as a challenge. But did this also drive you into interest into programming?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
At what point?
So there was a point where I was doing a 3rd year module. I was doing ODEs, and we were like looking
What is ODEs?
Ordinary differential equations. Sorry. So basically we're doing ordinary differential equations in 3rd year, but then a part of that module was that you can code what you write and you can show it graphically.
Yeah.
And that aspect fascinated me because as much as math is very old and traditional, which it is, it also forms the foundation of programming itself. In the sense like when you learn basic programming languages, they always ask you, write a function, give a function an input, ask it to draw the function, like basic things like that, which is basically math. But I was really interested in showing how higher grade math can be displayed using a computer. And that was like a turning point. But it was also an interest of mine because I thought of Alan Turing when he created the world's first computer as like a mathematician. Like that was quite interesting because people often forget.
It
was actually a mathematician that created the first computer, which explains why programming is so mathematical. So I found that like really interesting because I was like, oh, so mathematicians actually can create and invent new mathematics for new upcoming fields, which I think often is what people forget what mathematicians do. Like they think, oh, you're just a lecturer and you just mark and you just write papers. But basically we explore new mathematics, take it apart, put it together, and try to explain how it does new things within our papers and theses. That's basically what we do. That's the creative part of it. Most people don't really get to see that, but yeah.
So have you ever participated in the math contexts?
Yes.
And how did you find it? Is it the best place to challenge yourself, even to much beyond your school and even Packard? Because I understand these math contests actually goes up to the global level, whereby you find like you are the top mathematician. One of my, I think one of the neighboring school, which is mathematics, where I went to university, was a contestant up to the global level, and it was really fascinating because one, he was doing masters and was really young, but he was the best mathematician, I think, up to today. And another thing is that you get to meet people who can prove that you're not that good, which I find really interesting.
Yes. So I found it quite interesting because it's very stimulating. Like I did SATMO, which is the South African tertiary maths Olympiad. So like they give you like 40, I think 20 or 40 problems. So the first 10 or so is like, all of it is multiple choice, but then they'll ask you, like you'd have to pick the right multiple choice. And I think there's also negative mark. I don't know if there's negative marking, but sometimes they implement it. But you have to like solve the problem like on rough paper and then like pick the right one. But I found it very hard because the time is always limiting and your brain has to be open to like almost all forms of mathematics. So when I did it in my first year, I felt a bit limited, but I did it for like the experience to see like how they would ask the question. So it's like it definitely is on a different level than to when you learn maths. So that's like the hard part. But it is like a challenge in the sense to see, okay, you've learned all these concepts, but can you actually apply it to solve a problem or a simple small problem, like just something with sets and like finding the lower and upper bound of this function that looks complicated, but you have to obviously unpack it and then try and draw it. So that was like the very like challenging part, but I found it really stimulating. You get to meet lots of like-minded people like you, which is nice. So I would recommend if you can do group contests, is always lots of fun. I remember in high school I did like a group mathematician Olympiad. So you work in a group and like each person gets a section of the paper to do and you have to fill it in and then submit it. But I mean, that's always nice because then you foster what you call like collaboration, which I think most people forget that is really valuable, that mathematicians collaborate. When you write papers, you collaborate with people overseas, you collaborate with people in Africa. Like it's a very collaborative process when you write a thesis or any paper that you submit. You have lots of many different authors, even if et al. With your paper. So I feel like that part is really a nice experience. So I like both the individual and the group Olympiad. I feel like it really challenges your understanding of mathematics. So it really like speaks to you and say like, can you really do this? And then it's a challenge in the sense that you're like, okay, this is hard, but like, can I actually do this? And then I felt like I had more drive or more ambition to actually figure the problems out. Like they would give you the solutions afterwards, and then I would go and see, okay, now how did they do the solution, or how did they get to that answer? So that's like the type of thing that it made me want to do. So it actually fueled my desire more so than discouraged me.
Oh, nice. And now you start delving into programming or computing, right? Okay, computing is still math, but programming rather. But then most people don't know, and they assume this, that for you to be really versatile and sustainable in computing or programming, you have to keep digging more math beside what is taught to you. But that's not the point. The point is, you realize most of the mathematicians, they just focused on one arm of mathematics or one formula or one theorem. And it took them their lifetime to even really make sense out of it. And even then, it outlived them. Which means, again, it brings me back to how complex sometimes mathematics are. But also, that's a fascinating aspect of life itself, whereby, and this now brings me now to the aspect of community, whereby you can't achieve everything on your own, right? And that's why now communities are so important, because you find someone who is good in X, someone else is good in Y, someone else is good in W, and when you come together, then does you find the power of everything. And even when you look at the corporate world or the governments, it's facets of collaborations that come together. But when you started programming, did you just join communities, or how was that transitioning?
Okay, so it was actually quite hard. Well, not hard, but it was hard in the sense finding the right the right person to guide me through it.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody tells you like how to find the right person that understands your exact level.
Yeah.
So when I say like, I usually describe myself as a pre-beginner for Android, and people are like, what do you mean? I'm like, it means like Kotlin is probably my first official comp-sci or computer programming language, which means I don't really know much about the world, which means I'm a pre-beginner. I'm not even a beginner because I don't even know what full stack or front end and back end is. Like I know what it does, but I don't know like the full description of what you need.
Yeah.
So I feel like it was hard navigating, but I actually fell in love with Android Studio. And it was so weird because I think months before I got my acceptance letter, I decided to install Android Studio on my PC. That itself was a mission because I don't know how to do it properly. So I asked one of my friends, Ralph, and I said, look, I really want to get into Android. I really want to learn Kotlin, and I really want to try and do this. They said, okay, we're going to do this together. So we had like a video call, or on Teams, someone can take over your computer. So we did that, and then he installed Android Studio, and we were going through it. And then he was like, okay, this is how it works. This is he was planning all the parts and stuff. And then I actually found Google's documentation for Android really simple, in the sense like the code labs really show you each and every step, and they show you what the screen must look like. So it wasn't like I was reading a blank canvas. It's like I was reading a full canvas with everything there, which I found really encouraging, in the sense like I would do something and it would be exactly like how they did it, and it would show exactly what they did, which is kind of cool because that's how I learned math kind of. So I'd look at a solution and then look at a problem and then see how they did that, and then try and do it in a similar way, even if it's different things. So I kind of like amplify or copy the method of how they do it. And then while I was doing that, I would obviously I would like try and do what they do, but then I would try and change one or two things so that it sticks in my head what I'm doing. So like if it says hello world, I will say like hello Jessica, or put a name of someone that I really know, like oh wow, I will say hello wow, because it makes me learn code better. So I found Android's documentation to be really good. So I use their code labs. If you just type Kotlin or Android in Google to show up. So I used that, and it was quite nice. But the only thing is like they taught me like really simple things, and it was good for like say starting, like showing okay I did build something. But then when it came to like harder things like data classes, and I know how a class works, but I mean how to implement it in a different section of a code. I was familiar with it because we did build differentiable equations, like a script in MATLAB. So I do know that you must like have a separate file for the equation and then build the function, and you like import it. Yeah. So I did understand like how classes worked, but I didn't know like the whole like nitty-gritty details of like the real important things of it, of how to implement it, and that you get like such a thing as a data class, like different types of class. So then I wasn't quite sure of how to like navigate that. And it was just so awful because at some point like it's hard because you don't really know what direction you're going in. So at one stage I was learning Java, and then I tried Flutter, and then Flutter was a bit too hard for me. And then I tried Kotlin, and it worked well. So it's like I was like playing around to figure out what worked for me. But I had to do that because I didn't want someone to tell me this would work for you, and then what if it doesn't work for me? So I took that initiative to kind of find what works for me. And at the moment, Kotlin really does work for me. I know most people don't think of it as like the most realist language, but it really solidified all the different aspects I didn't know about coding within that language. So I really felt like, okay, this is home. I understand it. I can build from here. I can become a Kotlin expert. That's what I want to be. And then I would say mentors are also a very big part. So I have a lot of mentors, but all of them are for different aspects of my coding journey. And the reason why I say this is because you can't find one mentor that can be everything to you.
Yeah.
So I have one that just guides me on finding the right communities or the right resources for what I'm looking for. Two of them actually that are really good at that. I know they're really busy people, but they always find time to kind of give me some guidance in that aspect. When it comes to the nitty-gritty details like becoming a real hard code programmer in Kotlin, I have Eric. He's really good in the sense that he gave me a beginner Kotlin book, which is quite easy to read. And it really sets me up for where I want to go with Kotlin. But he's also really busy. But then I found someone that I can do coding sessions with, like coding sessions with. So whenever I have a project or a presentation coming up, I always do my part first. So I would try and research, look up, see if I can build it. And then if I have any challenges or problems or just wanted to be checked or code reviewed, then I would have a coding session with my mentor and we'd discuss it out. And he's really approachable and really nice. So I think that's nice because I also feel like I don't put too much on him. It's just that part that he needs to really help me with. Because everyone's always busy. And I know that everyone's always busy, but just the piece that they can give to me means the world. So I look at it like that. And I also have another mentor, Hannah. So she's teaching me how to do more technical Android presentations, or how to be technically correct and getting into the technical writing space because she does a lot of articles, which is also really nice in the sense that it's my first female mentor in Android because Android is quite male dominated. So I'm really blessed to have her and happy to have her. It just gives me a different perspective of Android. So I really like that.
Nice.
It's fascinating that all through your story, some key things stand out, such as collaboration, right from the math contest up to now when you're doing the peer coding. And it seems that you like high pressure zones, like the math contest. And again, when you literally took over GDSC without being a comp sci student, so the high pressure, I guess, is also something that works for you in a way. But going back to where you said you tried several things. You tried Flutter, realized that one isn't for you. You were here and there before you realized Kotlin is it. So for someone, if you could look back and see yourself at that instance, where you're trying to find your footing, you're trying this language, you're not sure where to go, what's the one thing you'd tell yourself that would be like, you know what, trust the process? Or how would you advise yourself to navigate that quote-unquote confusion era before finding what really works for you?
Sure. So the way I would describe myself, it might seem a bit harsh, but find what works for you before someone tells you what should work for you. It's a bit harsh, but like that's how I would think.
So it should be inward, outward, not outward, inward.
Okay. Yes. So that's how I would encourage myself because I feel like the language that you choose is like your most personal language. So I don't think of programming languages as like you just learn. It's just a language when you program. It's like it's an actual language you speak. So right now I have 3 languages: English, Maths, and Kotlin.
Wow.
So it's a personal thing. It's got to be something that you really love doing. It's got to be something that even if it challenges you, you are still very much attached to it and you love to speak it. And even if it updates all the time, which Android does, but you love learning the new ways of speaking it. Like you get new words in English all the time, or like the dictionary is always updated every year. So yeah.
Interesting. You're fluent in English, math, and Kotlin. Got it.
Yeah. So, Jessica, I would love to know how is tech ecosystem in Cape Town, and know if I was in Cape Town, maybe even tell us more about Cape Town. Some of us have never been there.
Yeah.
We see some amazing beach photos.
The mountain meets the ocean.
Yes. And there's a law that is quite interesting when you talk about Cape Town. Maybe delve into it, and also please mention about the developer community there and what to expect.
Sure. So Cape Town is really nice. We have really beautiful weather. We do have our most prominent seasons are summer and winter. Spring and autumn are like not so much there. But our weather is also very temperamental. So like it can change very quickly. Like it can be sunny in the morning and it can be winter, or like full on winter, windy, and then it looks like it's going to rain like in the afternoon. It's very like weird like that. But we have beautiful mountains. Like Table Mountain is one of our biggest attraction. And we do have beautiful beaches. Yes, like really beautiful beaches, which is also a very nice attraction. And we have like the aquariums, and like we have other beautiful mountains other than Table Mountain, like Lion's Head and Signal Hill. So we have a very beautiful landscape. The cultures are so very rich. So like we have different cultures within one place, like from like Khayelitsha to the District 6, which is the city. And yeah, we have a very multi-racial, multicultural place. That's like a little bit about Cape Town. With regards to the developer ecosystem, I think it varies. It really changes a lot. But it is there. Like we do have developers. We have lots of business people interested in coding and computing, which is really nice. Usually when I go to many different like meetups, I always meet a different collection of new people all the time. So I can't really like give like define what the population, like what they actually do, because every time it's a different thing. Like we could have engineers that join our community. It's just very diverse. But I think if I can like highlight core areas of what people are interested in within our developer ecosystem. So, and just from my university perspective, I've noticed like a lot of people are really into cybersecurity. So like we have lots of competitions like the SAN-REN competition, and Standard Bank always has like a ethical hacking competition. So we have lots of like those type of competitions in terms of like that obviously fuels the idea that people want to go into cybersecurity. But I think what's different there is that people go into cybersecurity, but not necessarily a comsci or software company. So it's so funny. I have a friend of mine that's at KPMG, but he studied computer science, but he is the cybersecurity person for an accounting company, which is quite interesting. Because I thought like maybe there'll be like more software like places. But he found cybersecurity within accounting firms. So we're starting to notice that accounting firms are starting to be interested in STEM students like maths, stats, computer science, anything technology related, because obviously they are upgrading to the digital